Well, everyone, it's that time again. 11.1 is almost here, and it brings a humongous wave of class changes. Seriously, it covers just about everything. That means some people will be thinking about re-rolling. Some of you might be a little bit worried that you might feel forced to re-roll. So today's video is our verdict on that. We have went through everything that is going on in this patch. This video brings it all together so you can understand. Now, this is mostly about fun and utility, less about raw damage output because, let's be real, tuning will happen, and it's hard to predict that this early. Now, I want to start on the things that are the most hype, the most exciting, so naturally, let's talk about the winners. I'm sure we all know the feeling of death by 1,000 cuts. One of those deaths is subscriptions, and Rocket Money, today's sponsor, tackles your subscriptions head on. And if I'm anything to go by, man, those can pile up at a shocking rate.
It seems like every video I start watching has some kind of in-game grift, you know? But for my own and for your own sensibility, let me give you a piece of advice. Marketing is just that. It's marketing. It's you being influenced to try and separate you from the coin in your pocket. Now, in these times right here, I ask for your sub. Yes, I do. I do. But if you want to listen to these things here that are trying to separate you from your coin, you're more entitled to. But I have an ad blocker for a reason, because I believe in my free choice. If I want to go and find something, I will search for it. That's why you will never catch an in-ad. You will never catch it in mine, because I don't believe in ads. I'd rather put it at the end of the video, never at the beginning. And it's one of those things that I feel is very predatory. So they're very annoying. They're very annoying. So I'll put the link to the video always in the bottom of my video. But if you want that, there you go.
Hunter's pretty much come out of this patch as happy as can be. That's because Marksmanship has got a full rework that is an absolute joy to play, and both Beast Mastery and Survival have had their most boring hero talent trees massively upgraded. Now, we've done a full video on the Marksmanship Hunter rework. It is fantastic. The rework, that is. It's a pretty good video.
I'll have to check that one out.
The short version of why it's a winner. It now plays way, way more smoothly. It's easier to understand. It uses fewer buttons, but like in a way that feels intuitive, not dumbed down. And the focus management gameplay is massively improved, especially in AoE. And the whole lone wolf debacle has finally been solved because, pet or no, you will get an eagle companion, and the eagle companion handles all of your utility, even Bloodlust, which is big for playability.
Hell yeah.
We've got the pack leader revamp, which honestly is kind of huge. It's more huge for fantasy than gameplay, but honestly I still count that as a major win because it was totally sauceless. Now you can summon in classic horde beasts like an actual pack. That means a rampaging bear, a charging boar, and a scouting wyvern. It's kind of Rexar vibes, which I really like. Its gameplay is much improved, and the fantasy is honestly transformational. As for gameplay stuff for the core specs, well, both Beast Mastery and Survival have had minor fixes to talent setups, mostly in the AoE side of things, which overall means if you're an existing hunter, basically congratulations. You've got a humongous upgrade with Marksmanship, and at the very least, Pack Leader is actually something you can try and play, and will be pretty cool.
I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot because I used to be marksman way back when vanilla was going on. But I also used to do a lot of Beastmaster. Now here's another one, Demon Hunter, which you all know was my main for quite some time. Let's see what they have to say about that.
Happy to say Demon Hunters are also a winner. This is almost a reroll tier level of upgrade to the spec. It's not quite worth rerolling to, but if you are a victim of Havoc just getting way too complicated over time and losing a bit of its identity, you're actually getting compensation here. The complicated buff stacking with Immolation Aura and Fell Rush is gone, which will be huge for your day-to-day, second-to-second.
I agree with that. I do agree with that, even if I'm just like 2 or 3% down on DPS, but yet not causing my group to be compromised in any way because I'm butt pulling due to my vengeful retreat and trying to Fall Rush. I'm all for that.
Gameplay. So now that stuff is on Vengeful Retreat and Fellblade. which is actually kind of big because of how Blizzard have actually done the specifics there, where you can actually animation cancel if you Fellblade immediately after the Vengeful Retreat, which just feels so much better for you.
Yeah, so if you notice, when he Vengeful retreats, he doesn't have to wait till he basically lands to animate it, which is what I used to do quite often.
Your movement.
Hey,
now, the way it works,
Daganja.
though, is that your buff windows line up nicely every 20 seconds, and they're less dangerous to trigger because you're not going to zoom off into Narnia and make it.
I've done that. I have done that. Like, how the fuck did I end up out there? Like, that is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Big mistake. That's one of those things that's a small change, but to your actual second-to-second gameplay, aggravation, and fun factor, it's huge. And in terms of performance, unless you were somebody who was mastering Demon Hunter as it was, this is probably going to be an increase in your damage output. There is still a high skill ceiling, it's just quite a bit less frustrating than it was before.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to trigger inertia, which if any of you are not familiar with what inertia was for Demon Hunters, it usually gave us, well, Immolation Aura would give us Chaos. Was it Chaos Brand? And then when you were able to Vengeful Retreat and Fell Rush Forward, that was supposed to be able to give you all the added damage through all the mobs. But I believe now that they have a hard cap, do they not? Is it like, not a hard cap, but it's like 5, and then everything after 5 takes less damage, or maybe 8.
Basically means that for melee DPS players, this is getting very close to reroll territory, but you are still brutally weak on utility, which could be a little bit of an issue. So if you want to know more about how this was literally a dying spec per the numbers, what this overall does, and the other changes, you can check out our dedicated video on it. Now, on the side of the tanks, with Vengeance Demon Hunter...
He's not wrong. I watched that video. I didn't react to it here on the stream, but I have watched that video, and I've also watched Jedith cover it. He was in agreement with a lot of it, because the fact that, they were so hot and heavy and fell off so badly, the population doesn't want to go through all of that anymore. The true gist of it is Sinful Brand was the best time. And I know Jedith will probably disagree because that made the class too easy, but it was just that every time you I-beamed, your Sinful Brand would be renewed. So it was continuous dot damage on all of those ads. And that was when the spec was at its best, in my opinion.
There is very little to report. Demon Spikes lasts longer, so that'll smooth out your tanking damage, but yeah, that's really it. Our next winner spent...
Right now, I am playing all of these classes, except if he's going Druid here, I'm going to say he's going with the way of balance. Whereas I play Feral. Now, I may want to learn how to play balance because, let's face it, they don't have great defensives. I still don't believe that they're going to be unkillable until Blizzard or the class people rework their defensives. We get killed way too easy. Especially when you're trying to learn the class. When you're low level, you die a lot.
A lot of time being a loser. It's the Druids. And this time it really is Druid, not anyone's spec. And that's because the Druid class tree was a total nightmare. But thankfully, was is the word, not is, because now it's a whole bunch better. With 11.1's changes, the pathing is far more natural, and that means that great talents like Skull Bash, Feline Swiftness, Fluid Form, and even well-honed Instinct are actually easier to get to. That'll feel great for building, and you've got some new freed up points that can go into shiny new tools, like a heal-sharing one called Symbiotic Relationship. Now, of the specs, Resto does benefit the most here, because instead of awkwardly cat-weaving and casting for damage, you can now specialize into one or the other. It's quite a bit better. And to make that even better, Moonkin form is actually now back in the class tree. It's not game-changing, but it is a solid improvement if that's the way you want to go for Resto. As for Resto itself, it does have a few spec-specific upgrades. Tranquility's heals per second has almost doubled. Now, it's overall like about the same healing, it's just that the cast time is down to 5 seconds, so that'll be That would be pretty damn nice when you need to hit that big oh shit button. And the next time your party's health bars go into squeaky bum time territory, you'll actually find something quite nice in that your nature swiftness regrowths actually now hit a whole bunch harder. Well, heal a whole bunch harder, which is nice. Most importantly then, Mastery is easier to use here. They've curved the scaling so that the first few hots give you most of the bonus. Then Guardian also gets a few welcome touch-ups, like Raise actually replacing Maul, some much needed passive magic resistance, and a buff to Frenzied Regen's potency. Many people, me included, would probably like a rework to Guardian, but hey, that is a win, and overall for the Druids, well, it's a win. If you are an already happy Druid, you're going to be a lot happier, but it's not really a game changer, and it's not reroll territory.
So one of the guys that I've been trying to watch is Cybear. Cybear covers a lot of Druid, different classes, Pharaoh, Guardian. I mean, he does essentially everything that is Druid. I'm gonna maybe watch that one on stream. I'll look at it first, probably when I'm in my truck, and then go from there. Next up, we have Shaman, which we all know it. Shaman is going to be meta. So if you have a Shaman, you've been playing Shaman, I don't think you have anything to worry about. All three specs as of right now are going to be viable. Question is, what is it you want to do?
There's good news for the Shamans. You guys are the reigning king of patch note lines. Like, seriously, you guys get all of the word count. That's because there's a lot of changes.
Look at all
there
that.
are big class-wide ones, which are the removal of Ancestral Guidance, because Blizzard wants to make off-healing a choice instead of a passive thing, and a rework to Primordial Wave. And to get to the specifics, it's enhancement where we see some excellent news. The TLDR from Blizzard is that Maelstrom Weapon makes up way too much of your damage, so Blizzard are basically swapping around the numbers to make your melee stuff hit harder. But it's actually a bit more than that. Primordial Wave is now a big damage dealer that slaps all of your Flame Shocked targets, and it's got a new Storm AoE follow-up. Then Sundering's reset chance has been changed to depend on target count, and Voltaic Blaze now triggers more reliably. All that should feel a good bit better, and Blizzard also took the chance to solve Ascendance Fishing. You can now just fire off spells at 5 or more stacks instead of wanting to optimize, which is way better. And all of these fairly major changes, plus how the changes to Storm Strike and Lava Lash interact with talents, just make enhancement substantially smoother to play, which is a good thing. One example of that is Lava Lash spreading all 5 Flame Shocks, and another one is Totemic basically being...
You see, one of the things that I use is He Kelly, and it never calls for Lava Lash. Never.
Being reworked. So the totem got nerfed hard, but all the other talents basically got hooked into more places, which basically means that if you want to go for a more proper lava build, that's actually a good bit more likely. There's then another huge set of changes that basically won't matter if you're a heavy weak auras user, but if you're not, well, it's going to matter a lot. That's because Blizzard have updated all of the UI. So they're removing glows from some spells, they're adding glows to other spells, and they're cleaning up how Maelstrom Weapon displays. And all of this is much needed stuff because the glow soup was a little bit of a nightmare. It wasn't clear. Now for every single player, enhancement will just be more clear to play, and it will be smoother to play, which overall means that the 11.1 enhancement changes are a pretty damn substantial upgrade for both the casual and the advanced experience, except for losing guidance, which is a fairly major blow to your Mythic Plus strength. The next thing then is Restoration Shaman. So Primordial Wave is gone, and you've got a big old cleanup pass. And one of the examples there is kind of funny. So your Mana Tide totem is actually now built into your Healing Tide totem. Now in a way that's good, right? Because it saves you a keybind. Though it is a little odd because those two things do have very different functions. Now it's just bundled into one. But I think it could end up edging out as a bit of a positive. Now what is more clearly positive is Resto getting an AoE component to Healing Wave with the Riptides and a massive change to Earth Shield and Water Shield. This will be great. They can now be permanent, which means no more charges, no more upkeep, just they're there, they're permanent, which is a big quality of life upgrade. Elemental then stays as is, which overall does...
So anybody here play a Resto Shaman? I mean, have you guys... I'd like to hear all of your takes on this, because, you know, these things really sound like they could be positive, not, hey, Graywin. So let me know.
Does mean that Shamans are a winner. Paladin is another winner, but like the Shaman, they have lost some passive off healing. That's a part of a broader design direction for Blizzard. In this case, though, it is via nerfs, not removals. To talk about Ret then. Ret is almost perfect as it is. The only changes that it sees are a Divine Hammer rework, where Hammer is actually now an AoE that consumes Holy Power to stay active, which, to be honest, I think's pretty damn great. Spamming Hammer and just having hammers whirling around you just felt like sort of lame RSI to me. It was never fun, so that's kind of neat. Beyond that, then, there are some healing buffs and nerfs.
You did test
Moving
it?
over to Prot. Prot is almost perfect. It sees only a minor change to a Templar talent and some healing, which does mean that Holy Paladin is where we're getting the action today. And it's quite a lot. So Holy gets Unbound Freedom, which should be pretty nice for your movement, and more importantly, large buff.
What do you mean you don't like it? I don't like healing tide part
To the base
because
value.
sometimes you need mana tide. How often have you healed on a shaman?
Of their
Because I believe that is shaman, right? You're not talking about Pally here, not Holy Pally.
direct healing spells, which actually explains what could be scary, because if you look at this, you see what appears to be a humongous list of nerfs. But it's not that. Basically, Blizzard are making it so the talents that change the power of spells are toned down, but the base spells themselves...
The thing is that I can name only one person out of everyone that I've been playing with who does Holy Pally, and that's Wubsy. So I hopefully Holy can be back, because remember in Vanilla was everything about healing. Very felt. I don't even remember if we had a paladin tank.
Selves are greatly buffed, which essentially means that
They
you're
were
going
awesome
to be less
healers.
dependent on your talent. So a spell won't be completely useless without, say, one or two talents specifically being chosen. For some examples, Holy Shock gets a 40% healing and 100% damage buff. Holy Light gets a 90% healing buff. So that's pretty damn big stuff. And also, they're tweaking mana. Here's a really cool one. You will get a 50% mana refund if you use Holy Shock on an enemy, which I just think for your decision making, you want to do some damage, right, when you're healing. That feels way better. And all of these are much needed changes to a spec that, to be honest, has been floundering for a while. Which means
A long time.
These are going to feel better, right? Holy Paladin will feel better.
Like, if I remember correctly, there was a time where Holy Pally was making a comeback, and then it got nerfed. For what reason? I have no clue. But they were really trying to come into a lot more of the pickups for maybe a quarter of the season, and then for the following season, like I don't know what they did because of PvP, and then they dropped off. They were gone. They overtuned them, and then they were amazing in it. Okay, there you go. Because I was almost certain that you could pick up a Holy Pally and be great, because you wouldn't see them very often at all. So when you saw a Holy Paladin, you were like, okay, I don't know that they were part of the meta class, but they were definitely a strong healer. Now don't get me wrong, chat, and don't go fucking raging, but I've always thought Resto Druid was always lacking. And my reason for thinking that is because their HOTS are just not strong enough. Like right now, if I had to pick a group right now, and we're talking about the healers. If I had to think of a healer right now, no, I watch a lot of videos. I listen to a lot of the chatter. I would go Disc Priest. I would go Resto Shaman. Right now, I might go with the number 3 spot as being Resto Druid, but that's a tough sell. If I see one of the other two coming up, yeah, Druid healing is very nice this season or next season, but I'm thinking that it's all about, not only that, but the utility they bring. So what don't you have to bring? If you get a Resto Druid, then you get Mark of the Wild. So this means you don't have to bring a balance, and this means you don't have to bring a feral. You know, you might not even have to bring a guardian. So you can mix it up. Now, here we don't discriminate. For the most part, my groups are made out of you guys, the chat. So I always want to Resto Shaman. You know why you want to Resto Shaman? Because they have lust, heroism. They're able to res themselves if they need. The healing factor, great. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
It will be more of an option that you can take. But as far as melee healers go, I mean, it's really going to...
Oh, you see? He's bringing up Mistweavers. Mistweavers, to me, they seem pretty good. Mistweavers, to me, they bring utility. They bring a buff. They bring a Ring of Peace, which is the utility. And they provide good healing. I think Mistweavers really are undersold. And it's like I said, it's about the skill ceiling. It's about the skill ceiling. If you have a good skill set and you could play that class is going to rock.
Struggle comparing to how cool are...
And then you're hearing this from the oldest 3K. I'm trying not to brag, but I am the oldest 3K player in the world. All right. Manifold, thank you for the follow. You're hearing this from a guy that streams and that plays with a lot of different players. I can guarantee you, Rep Paladin has been amazing. Hunters are doing fantastic. Beast Mastery, that is, because I don't play with a lot of marksmen. Survival Hunter, I don't really feel too good about them because the players that I've had are always dying. They could be great though. If you're playing them full time, you could be having a fucking fantastic time with them. Tanks, prop pallies, hands down. Prop pallies are the fucking shit. Vengeance Demon Hunter, they're at the back of the bus right now. But in season 2, they're supposed to be up there and above Prop Pally. So come to the channel, check me out, and let's see how this goes.
Our next classes. That's not because Mistweaver is getting a revamp or anything, it's just Mistweaver is really good, and it's only a small winner in this patch, but it's carrying lots of wins from the last few patches. So if you've not caught up with Mistweaver in, say, an expansion or two, it's pretty damn huge. Okay, so you've got a new option for big single target Shenlun's gift healing, which is pretty sick, and an update to Chi-Ji to be a much stronger cooldown while moving both it and Yulon to a more reliable 2-minute cooldown. You've got that, plus some simplified damage, less tank buffs, more baseline damage, and it just means that they're coming into patch 11.1 as honestly an almost must-play for healers. Look, Monk is sick, and it's continuing to be so, which is nice. And what a lot of this is a simplification pass, a consolidation pass that continues to actually be pretty positive for the game. Next then, we've got Windwalker, where they're getting the wind kick ability from Plunderstorm. Yeah, so you'll get that as
hey, there you go.
Places flying.
That was not a very good ability. So I wouldn't suggest like betting all your fucking cards because of this ability. It wasn't all that in Plunderstorm.
Serpent kick, of course, if you talent into it, and you've got similar.
It's a gap closer, if you want to consider that. It is a gap closer.
Changes to Mistweaver, where you get some more power pushed to your baseline AoE, a flat cooldown reduction from Zhuen, and then for the Brewmasters, yeah, you guys do kind of.
They didn't get shit, which is really sad because Brewmasters, you still have Brewmasters in the game. But these are what you would call savants. These are savants of their class. These are the what do they call it when you never give up on your team? The diehards, these are the diehards. They won't fucking, they believe and will bleed for that class.
I've got to rot for a little bit longer. There's no meaningful changes, which is a shame. Hopefully that means
they're like they're at the back of the bus right now,
because while Monk overall is awesome, Brewmaster is relatively looking kind of dire. But that being said, there is good news for tanks as a whole. Now I will caution you that this is anecdotal, but we have been hearing that
that's how you feel about your Warlock. Your Warlock is in great shape. Warlock players out there like LFD, I can't cry for you. Now, although I believe in the mindset that nothing should be nerfed and everything should be brought up, everybody's just wanting to get to your level. It's always meh. Well, get good, because I'm telling you, there are good players that play Warlock that blast. You have Shay. You got the evil Lux. There are players that I've met in this game that are amazing. And you as dots, you're good. So why do you feel it's not good enough? Hey, Xantos. I just want the game to be fun again. We're getting there, chat. We're getting there. Don't be doomers already. Warlock is busted again in PTR too for AoE. Yeah, the one... Okay. All right. So the one thing that I want everyone to understand, trash means nothing. So if all of your abilities and all of your fucking damage is coming from busting and blowing up on trash, i.e. Demon Hunter, and then you get to the boss and you're hitting them with a fucking limp dick, you know, you're hitting them with a pillow, that doesn't make anyone feel good. Like when I'm playing Demon Hunter / Havoc and I'm going up to the boss, I'm like, I'm glad I blew all of my cooldowns on the trash, because I was hoping to get us here so that hopefully my team can take care of this boss. Nobody wants to feel like that. Now you Neo, you're a mage, so you don't count, because you're all over the place. And then you have a good skill set. So, I mean, where do you go with that?
The recent builds of the PTR has been mechanically a lot more forgiving, and especially for tanks, right? We know the Blizzard had done things like spacing out abilities more, nerfing tank busters, and that...
Yeah, Neo is busted. When it comes to playing a class, Neo is busted. Like, he could... Like, I played... When he was a Demon Hunter and I played Demon Hunter with him, he was great there.
Actually does seem to be paying off. We're almost at the end of the winners, but there's a few more to go, and Mage is a tricky one. So Frost falls under minor.
Here we go. Talking about fucking Neo.
Upgrade. Fire lands in the sort of intended upgrade, but will feel worse area, which is not really great. And Arcane is totally lost in the sauce. So here's what I mean. Frost sees the death of proc munching, which is great. So now Fingers of Frost Ice Lances won't consume Winter's chill stacks, which means that you can use every single opportunity for damage. Yeah, munching your buffs never felt great, so that's good. And as another nice bonus, your blizzards will now hit a whole lot harder, and they're actually a whole lot bigger as well. Fire, then, is a tough nut to crack for this video. So throwing out your instant pyros all day is fun, but it's kind of hard to balance that. So a downgrade going into 11.1 is this. You are getting fewer fire blasts and phoenix flames to use across the board, right? Now, to compensate for that, you're getting baseline damage buffs. So the good part here is on Blizzard's end, right? It allows them to put more oomph into each pyro for meaningful burst damage, because there's less of them, but they'll hit harder. But that does mean that you'll be hard casting Fireball more often. And of course, in a world where lots of instants just feels amazing for your movement, that may not feel as great straight up. Now, Blizzard have also increased the stack and crit to smooth this out, but it is still a little bit slower to play. And then it's time for Arcane, because Arcane is, of course, Arcane and lost in the sauce. Blizzard have attempted
Arcane
to
has
fix
always been
Arcane
fucking
barrage
crazy to
usage
play.
being complicated. Again, they've done this many times. But in doing that, they basically made everybody extremely mad, and that forced Blizzard to revert what they were planning to do. But then, while they were at it, they actually did manage to fix it. It's a whole journey, and the short version is that Aether Vision made knowing when to press Barrage kind of awkward. So Blizzard tried to fix that
You loved
by
it?
removing Barrage modifiers.
Dude, it was
from
so
mother
fucking
precision.
confusing.
But then everybody said that that was way worse. So Blizzard then reverted the change and just removed Aether Vision instead. So there's no Aether Vision. And in Aether Vision's place, you now get a simpler buffed version of last season's tier bonus added to your talents. So you've got that and a handful of smaller fixes like a Sun Fury buff and some more AoE power that should lessen the blow of Blizzard choosing not to give back the pretty amazing feeling 11.0 version. Which overall means this. Mages they're a winner on a technicality, but fire might feel worse. But don't lose sight of the bigger picture, which is that Mage is an amazing
I would play
class.
Fire.
If you like the idea of doing
I would
Mage
play Fire,
bullshit, Mage
without a doubt.
absolutely delivers that in spades.
Here we go, LFD.
Okay, Warlocks, you're up next, and you don't get much, but you do get wins. Affliction Soul Rot loses the Drain Life component, and it now just does big AoE damage while
I played
giving you
Affliction.
a heal. So, similar effect, but you're getting there in a more simple way. So, that's that. Then Demonology gets a Doom and Doom Eternal rework. Now Doom's countdown is spread by Hand of Gul'dan, and it has a chance to proc a free Demon Bolt when it finishes. And thankfully, you now get your free Dreadstalkers twice as often now, which should certainly feel quite good. Moving to Destro then, you get passive versions of Demon Fire and Dimensional Rift, and Blizzard's reasoning here is that those basically could crowd out the core Chaos Bolt game loop of playing the spec, so you get those options. And then finally, Havoc now lasts a little bit longer, while Rain of Fire is getting a targeted version, which altogether is nothing huge, and Warlocks certainly would benefit from more, but this is a winners and losers video, and these things are wins. Priest is a winner, but with an asterisk. And I say that because I don't know if I would call
With an
these
asterisk.
reworks, but what has happened is both of the Priest healing specs have got massive overdue updates. And they both have got the same idea, right? Kill cooldown bloat, buff everything else, and clean up button bloat. I'll start off with Discipline. So Discipline loses Rapture. Yeah, loses Rapture, which I suppose would have been good for old me because I always forgot to press that bloody button. Anyway, so you lose Rapture, but you get everything else buffed to make up for that. Evangelism especially has had a huge upfront heal added, but your overall base healing with Smite and Pain damage, of course converting into healing via Atonement, well, that stuff will be bigger. The durations will be higher, which is great. The reason why I forgot to press Rapture is because I always thought the coolest part of the spec was Atonement, so a little bit more into Atonement is certainly good in my book. Now, an odd part of this is that Purge the Wicked has been replaced. It was pretty awesome, and it's a hell of a name for a spell. What's odd here is you still get the effect of Purge the Wicked, but the spell is still just called Shadow Word Pain, which is a bit odd. That's the big stuff then. There's a stack of smaller things.
You made it sound so bad. I don't have nothing to say about fucking Priest. I have no clue.
Being fixed. And this is big,
We need
actually.
Crow
the
or
ability
Evo
to
here.
move during Ultimate Penance. Kind of huge. Now, Discipline still does have some issues. I mean, not having Rapture may end up feeling a little bit crippling because you could pop that and just pre-shield a whole bunch of people, but the power shift away from shields and towards Atonement, it may feel a little worse if you're used to what you've got right now. I can say that in my personal opinion, I always felt that Atonement was the unique thing that defined this spec. The problem is that it does require setup. And so a lot is going to come down to tuning. If Atonement is good enough to make up for losing Rapture and some of those other changes, then I think it could feel pretty damn amazing. But, I mean, time, testing, and gearing will really tell.
Will they scale
Now,
with their power
wow,
scale
you guys
with
do
the
actually get
gearing?
something that is closer to a rework. Here's what's going on. Blizzard removed Salvation, but they buffed Apotheosis and Divine Hymn, which is just another example of them trying to fight cooldown bloat. They're also cleaning up the rotation, so Circle of Healing is gone, and some of its powers actually went into Prayer. And just looking at the talents, you see huge changes. I mean, now you can go for both Lightwell and Lightweaver, or you can opt into a whole big stack of talents that buff Renew. Yes, Renew. There may actually be a world where pressing Renew may feel good. Kind of crazy. And with the new pathing, it's also a lot easier to pick up Restitution, which is your self-resurrection. overall, right, we're going to have to see how Discipline shakes out, but Holy is certainly looking stronger. So that is Priest. I'm definitely going to call it a winner. That is in spite of Shadow's silence.
That would go for people like Crow and Automatic Jack, I believe, unless Automatic Jack has made his shift over to disc. But a lot of top players are always playing disc and chasing the meta, so they'll have like 3, 5 priests, so they can play them and try and see where they're going with the meta.
Change to Shadow would be nice, and that does mean if your class has not came up in this video yet, bad news, you're a loser. Evokers are in a funny place because you do have some wins, but one of your specs is a massive loser. So here's the deal. The biggest upgrade that you get is Rescue now breaking roots, as if Rescue wasn't already strong enough. Devastation gets quality of life with Eternity Sword.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Hey, Cheeky, how you doing, brother?
Radius boost and Firestorm damage being cut. It only does 50% more damage and in only 6 seconds, but if that is enough is kind of another question entirely. You also lose your Essence Burst Casino talent, which will slow down gameplay a bit, but you get a boost to Disintegrate in its place. Then Preservation's Dream Breath is now guaranteed to heal the caster, and both of the specs get a slightly revamped Flame Shaper tree that focuses on more breath spells instead of extending breath spells. And now for the big thing. Augmentation Evoker has been, it's been taken away to live on the big farm in the sky.
Wow.
In at least one way. Their main stat buffs no longer hit tanks and no longer hit healers. And that does remove the thing that made them special, right? In that they were a support for everybody. Because now all that they do is...
And that's all because of the fucking, the whiners. All because of the fucking whiners.
Buff DPS to do more DPS. So they're basically just another DPS, right? Now they're still going to offer plenty of damage and they do have incredible utility, but what this does mean is they likely won't feel required to push Mythic Plus keys anymore. And that does mean that if you played one and you benefited from that dynamic, this is a massive bloody loss. Overall for the game though, this probably is more healthy. There's one thing Warriors shouldn't be: complicated. It's about being dumb and hitting things hard, but sadly you guys are complicated right now, at least in where you fall in this video. Everything that Blizzard says in the patch notes makes sense, but it doesn't really look like it's going to make Warriors happy. Here's the deal. You should all have a tiny bit more survivability because of a buff to reinforced plates, which is a nice start. Then Arms, like a lot of specs, is having its damage moved out of the talents and into baseline abilities, with Mortal Strike and Cleave being buffed.
I don't play Warrior, so I don't know if any of that does anything.
Is currently
You have to ask
5 to
Robex.
6 times more than Arms right now, at least per the stats that we can see and track. Fury, meanwhile, has got some small redesigns to Reckless Abandon and Titan's Torment. Recklessness upgrades your abilities while active instead of once, and then Avatar now speeds up your rotation a whole ton. And those do sound like nice little tweaks, but it does not go really far enough or do anything to solve how out of control the talent pathing has gotten, nor the general lack of utility that warriors have got, which basically just means if you want to be a DPS warrior, you can do that. But you could also play Retribution Paladin, and Ret Paladin is amazing. Okay, Prot then. Blizzard identified that Prot warriors are swimming in rage to the point where it's hard to make meaningful decisions
talking about the
on what
APM.
button to press, so you just end up spamming and spamming and spamming. Blizzard's answer has been to nerf your rage generation. Shield Slam reset chances are down, rage is down from most sources, and that does mean a lot less pressing ignore pain. Now you do get some passive buffs to try and make up for this, but I think for most people, this is a loss. I think for most people it will feel a bit worse. And overall, I'm thinking a small-scale rework could probably solve this issue in the future, right? Hopefully that can happen, or maybe even allow for a choice between like a high and a low APM build. But for now, you are just kind of stuck with a nerfed feeling prot for patch 11.1. Death Knights, sad news, you are a loser, but the good news is it's only by a little bit. So aside from some damage numbers being shuffled around the place, Frost and Unholy are going to be a bit more squishy coming into patch 11.1. You're losing some stamina and some passive magic resistance, and that does bring your baseline defense just a bit closer to normal. So you're a little bit less of an unstoppable sort of force of death. But you're still Death Knights, which is pretty rad. You've still got all of your defensive tools. It's just you'll now kind of have to use them properly. And now for the truly
That was really short, which means they got fucked.
shocking bit of the video. You've probably clocked on that we're actually quite close to the finish, but I've got an entire class to talk about. The Rogue. And there you go. That's the Rogue changes.
And the rogue changes are F tier.
Yes, rogues are losers. But you know what? You guys are used to it, right? You didn't expect much, did you? Hopefully we'll get changes.
But that's because they're already so fucking good, though. That's because they're fucking really good already. You got effed. You got effed. All right. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead, give it a subscribe, give it a like. I will post the original link to the video down in the description below. And truly, thank you so much for being here. See you in the next one. They really did get fucked, didn't they? Oh my goodness.